All right. Hey, we are live with Abby Johnson on social media right now. Abby Johnson is really a tremendous person who walked away from Planned Parenthood and walked away from the abortion movement to go ahead and serve the unborn and be just a major person in the pro-life movement. And Abby has written a book. She has been all over the news, as well as there's a movie called Unplanned that was about her story, which is really tremendous. And so, Abby, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it very much.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, absolutely. So Abby, so for those who don't know much about you, uh, if you could do us a favor and just retell your story, if you would, and tell us how your heart was changed in terms of abortion.
Yeah. I worked at Planned Parenthood for 8 years of my life. I was an abortion clinic director with Planned Parenthood. I'm sure most of you know, Planned Parenthood is our country's largest abortion provider. They perform about a third of our country's abortion procedures. Um, and was there for 8 years, got involved in college, believed that I was doing the right thing, believed that I was helping women, believed the lie, believed the talking points, believed what they put out in the media, right? Um, and loved my job, was there for a long time. And really, it wasn't until my last year with the company that I really started to question what we were doing. I had concerns about things I was being told. I was being told to double our abortion quota, the number of abortions that we had to sell to women coming in. That didn't make sense to me. I
Yeah,
had believed for all those years that we were there to keep abortion safe, legal, and rare. And that's what everybody said. I mean, at that
yeah,
time, now it's abortion access no matter the cost, right? But at that time,
yeah,
um, it was, abortion safe, legal, and rare. And that's what everybody said. That's what President Obama said. That's
yeah.
what we said to the media. I mean, that was it, right? That was the talking point. But here we are. Here it is, in black and white on paper. We're going to double our abortion quota. And I'm being told, that's how we make our money. If, no, we don't want to reduce abortion numbers. That's ridiculous, And so at that time, I'm wondering, like, okay, is the organization changing? Is, or is this really what we've been about the whole time?
Hmm.
And I'm now just figuring it out. And I came to realize that it was the latter. I was just now finding out what we had truly been about all along. And ultimately, though, I left in 2009 after witnessing a live ultrasound guided abortion procedure. Ultrasound guided abortions, very, very rare inside of the abortion industry. Usually abortions are done in a blind manner, where an ultrasound is not used during the actual abortion procedure. But we had a visiting physician in that day, and so he was showing us what this type of abortion would look like. And I watched in horror as a 13-week-old baby fought and struggled for his life against the abortion instruments. And I knew then that there was humanity in the womb. There was life in the womb, that I had been lied to by Planned Parenthood. And because I had eagerly believed this lie, I wasn't a victim. I mean, I had eagerly believed this lie. And because of that, I had then in turn lied to thousands and thousands of women. And I knew I had to get out. I knew I could never participate in abortion again. And so I left the industry and decided I would never participate in abortion again. And since then have been doing my best to expose the abortion industry, to expose abortion for what it is. And really, I mean, with 60 million recorded abortions since 1973, I'm trying to do my best to bring about some healing, because we've got millions and millions of
Yeah.
women who are walking around wounded from these abortion procedures. And so trying to bring about also just a sense of healing to those who have
Yeah.
been hurt by abortion.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and that's amazing. I think the process that you went through, and I was pretty soon. I want to get to and really take some time to talk about how do those women who've had abortions or been a part of the process get healing. But before we get there, so this is maybe an easy question, but right now there's still a lot of people who care about the unborn who are still trying to appeal to America and make the statement that, hey, abortion is wrong. It's a right and wrong issue, and it's wrong. And so before we talk about the healing aspect, can you talk with us about how you would communicate to America and how you communicate to women that this is the wrong thing to do, in spite of the challenges they may be facing in life?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we, we live in times. I think we've sort of, we've gone through cycles, right? So, at first it was sort of women didn't know that there was life in the
Hmm.
womb,
Yeah.
when the pro-life movement was sort of first coming around in the 60s and 70s. Ultrasound technology was not
Yeah.
available. It was sort of ignorance, right? Women didn't know.
Yeah.
People didn't know. And even at the time, a lot of doctors, they didn't even call abortion.
Yeah.
They called it menstrual extraction, right? Or they called it something else. And so there's just a lot of ignorance about the female body and about the unborn, and science had not advanced, and so it was sort of like sort of this age of knowing, this age of knowledge, right? In the
Yeah.
80s, that was really sort of a science boom, if you will, because
Yeah.
ultrasound technology then became available, and so then it was like women know,
Yeah.
and then it was all this focus on the baby, right? And I think in the 70s was really women focused because we didn't know much about the baby, and in the
Yeah.
80s very baby focused, um probably that way in the 80s and 90s. And I feel like we've sort of stayed there, like very baby focused, right? We
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
focus on the humanity of the unborn because science has come so far, and science has really come down decidedly on the issue of life. I mean, we know that there are scientific truths about the preborn child. So we know things to be true. We know that inside of the womb, um, the unborn child is alive.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that is scientifically true. It can't even be argued. There's only two states of being, and that is alive or dead. That's it. There's no middle ground. There's no like limbo state of being alive
Yeah.
or dead, right? You're either alive or you're dead. And if your cells are reproducing, if you are growing, then you are alive. And when your cells are not reproducing and when you are not growing, then you are dead.
Yeah.
And the unborn child is reproducing and its cells are reproducing and it is growing. Therefore, it is alive. That is a scientific fact. It cannot be argued. So we know that the unborn child is alive. That was something that was debated uh, between pro-lifers and pro-choicers for many years. Now it's undebatable.
Yeah.
Um, we know that the unborn child is a human being. Uh, it cannot be anything else. It cannot be any other species. A woman has never in the history of the world given birth to anything other than a human being.
Yeah.
Uh, a human being cannot give birth to a cat, cannot give birth to a dog. It doesn't work that way. So we know science has confirmed, undoubtedly, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the unborn is alive and that it is a human being. And so we've taken the guesswork out of that, right?
Yeah.
So pro-choicer that says to to you, well, I'm going to have an abortion because the baby is not alive and the baby is not a human being anyway. They are being willfully ignorant. They are being intellectually dishonest.
Yeah.
And we know that to be true. What I have found nowadays is that that's not even the argument that they're using anymore.
Huh.
People, pro-choicers generally, they know it's a baby. They know it's alive. They know that baby has a heartbeat from 18 days conception. They know that abortion is killing that baby, because any intentional disruption of the life continuum is killing by definition. They know that abortion is killing. They just don't care. And that's where we are in our society today. And I'll be honest with you, Jerry, there's not really any fancy apologetics that can get through to that sort of heart. What we can do is we plant seeds of truth.
Yeah.
We unapologetically speak the truth. We don't back down from what we know to be true. We don't back down from our beliefs. We plant the seeds. We fervently pray.
Yeah.
And we walk away. And we allow the Holy Spirit to do its work. Because when someone's heart is hardened to the point where they have accepted that it is okay to kill an innocent human being, only the Holy Spirit can break through that sort of seared conscience. And that's what I find in so much of today's youth.
Yeah.
Is just a seared conscience and just a numbing of the conscience and of the mind. And so we need to be praying, but honestly, we need to be speaking up more than we are.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times
Absolutely.
people are just like, well, I don't know what to say. I don't want to offend somebody, or I mean, like, gosh, I mean, who cares? I mean, why are Christians today more concerned about offending each other than we are about offending the heart of God? I mean, that really should be a question that we all ponder in our own minds. I'm not concerned at all about offending someone that I meet on the street, or about offending my neighbor, or even about offending my friend. I'm concerned about offending the heart of God, because at the end of my days, I'm not standing in front of my friend. I'm not standing in front of my neighbor. I'm standing in front of the creator of the universe, and I am accountable to him and him alone, not my neighbor. I don't give a crap what my neighbor. I don't care if I've offended them. But we aren't kingdom minded. Christians, I don't find to be kingdom minded anymore. Not like we should be.
How so?
We are other minded. We are too worried about being respecters of persons. And it's failing our society today.
So, I mean, I feel like you just took, I mean, we just heard you preach, and when you just need to finish, have an altar call right now. That was amazing. That was amazing. And so, Abby, so I think you brought up an amazing point. And so, what else would you tell, let's say, Christians, Catholics, people of faith, in order to encourage them or even challenge them to speak up, not only get involved, but speak up and be okay if someone is offended for them saying something truthful?
I would say, I mean, look, my daughter is 13 years old. She's almost 14.
Yeah.
She came to me the other day, and she was almost in tears because one of her best friends is sympathetic with the Black Lives Matter organization.
Yeah.
Now, my daughter goes to a Catholic school. My daughter is one of the most pro-life people I know. I would put her up against any pro-choice adult any day of the week, and she would them. I mean, she's incredible, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But she comes to me and she says, Mom, my friend, she's really angry with me. And she says, if I don't stop talking about this, and if I don't stop challenging her on this, she says, we're not going to be friends anymore.
Huh.
And I said, well, Grace, have you given her truth about why we don't support the Black Lives Matter movement? And she says, yes, Mom, I have told her that they are a Marxist organization. I have told her, this is my 13-year-old. She says, I have told her that they are a Marxist organization. I have told her that they are trying to, that their agenda is actually not to stand up for Black people, that their agenda is to break up the nuclear family, that stands against our faith, and that she as a Catholic cannot, in good conscience, support an organization that is trying to break up the nuclear family, that supports abortion, that this goes against her faith, the tenets of her faith.
Yeah.
And so she's telling me this, and she's her voice is shaking, right? I can tell she's about to cry. And she says, well, Mom, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to save this friendship, but support the things that I support. And I don't know how to save this friendship and still speak truth to her.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and I said, honey, here's the reality. I said, I'm sorry that in 8th grade, you're having to deal with this very real life adult situation. Because I'm pretty sure when I was in 8th grade, I might have been secretly still playing with Barbies, right? But that's not the world that we live in anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I said, but honey, your commitment is to Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Your commitment is not to this friend.
Yeah.
Your commitment is to Jesus Christ. And there will be many times over your life, throughout your life, where you feel like an outcast.
Yeah.
Because of your faith. There will be many times where you feel like you are standing alone. And where your other friends are standing against you, or you feel isolated, or you feel made fun of, or whatever. But the question is, are you standing in truth? And she said, yes, Mom, I am standing in truth. And I said, then you're standing with Christ. And if you are standing with Christ, are you standing alone? And she said, no, I'm not. I'm not standing alone if I'm standing with Christ. And I said, then are you speaking the right things? Are you saying the right things? And she said, yes. And I said, are you saying them in love? And she said, yes, I love my friend. You know, I love my friend. And I said, then Grace, if she leaves, then she has lost her best friend. She has lost someone who loves her. She has lost an advocate in her life. And that's sad for her. But you have to stand strong with your convictions. You have to stand strong with what you know to be true. And I would say the same to those people who are feeling like, I don't know if I can do it. If my 13-year-old daughter is willing to lose her best friend in order to stand up for the truth of Christ, why in the world would a 50-year-old woman or man
Yeah.
be too afraid to stand up for the truth of Christ?
Yeah.
I mean, I am raising my children to be willing to lose it all for their faith, to be willing to give up everything
Yeah.
for their faith. That's the kind of faith that I want to instill in my children. Because that may be what we're asked to give up one day, to surrender it all. And I don't want my children to deny God when it really matters. So if they're not willing to stand up for their faith in the little things in life, are they going to be willing to stand up for him when it really matters?
Yeah.
And if you're watching this and you're saying, you know what, in the little things, I haven't been willing to sacrifice the little things to stand up for the truth of Christ. I haven't been willing to sacrifice the little things to proclaim the gospel. Then you need to rectify that. Because one day you may be asked to give up everything for that truth. And woe to those who deny Christ when it really matters.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. I just want to have you just keep going. I want to not talk, but hey, for those who are watching this who don't understand the distinction between I'm backwards here on my screen, but don't understand the distinction between the statement Black Lives Matter and the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah.
So I think both of us would agree, and I would definitely agree that, hey, the statement Black Lives Matter absolutely is true. My brother is Black.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really love my brother. I love the African American community. But then when it comes to the organization, Black Lives Matter, you're right. It's a Marxist organization that is heavily pro-abortion and has a number of problems that I think are wrong with the organization. And so that's why I don't support the organization, but I do, of course, support the phrase Black Lives Matter, and I do love the Black community. And so, but I think it's interesting you brought that up because, when you look at Planned Parenthood, the organization you used to work for, it was founded by eugenicist
Yes.
Margaret Sanger. And anyone who knows Margaret Sanger has done the research. She was racist against the Black community. And so can you talk, and we know that as abortion was popularized in the US, it was integrated with racism against the Black community. And it's absolutely sickening. It's absolutely sickening because I love the Black community. And can you talk a little bit more about how abortion has been used against the Black community and how we need to stop that so we can bless and serve the Black community instead?
Well, so that was the whole point of Planned Parenthood, right? So the whole point,
Yeah.
Margaret Sanger's dream was to create a world where the minority population did not exist.
Hmm.
I mean, that was her whole point. And today we see her dreams really coming to fruition, as currently the abortion rate in the African American community is disproportionately high, and in
Yeah.
states like New York, the abortion rate in the African American community is as high as the live birth rate.
Yeah. It's so sad. So sad.
I mean, the African American community has actually come to a point where they're really not able to repopulate themselves, and that's because of abortion. That is
Yeah.
the number killer in the African American population. So Margaret Sanger would be very proud of herself, actually. And Planned Parenthood continues to celebrate their racist roots by giving out their most distinguished, their most honored award every year in the name of their founder, Margaret Sanger.
Wow.
I mean, this is what they're all about. 80% of Planned Parenthood's abortion facilities are in African American neighborhoods. That's not a coincidence.
Wow. Yeah.
That's who they are. That's who they market to. That's what they're about. They don't pop up their abortion clinics in wealthy white neighborhoods,
Yeah.
even though there are absolutely wealthy white women having abortions But those wealthy white women have to go to the black neighborhoods to get their abortions, and they will if they need them, or they'll go to their OB-GYNs to have abortions.
Yeah.
They know that uh, if they truly want to bring in the clientele, they will not only put up their clinics in African American neighborhoods, but they will then canvass the neighborhoods in the communities. And they will put up flyers, and they will offer free services, and they will set up shop in the WIC offices
Yeah.
and Medicaid offices. And, they don't offer anything to support the Black community. They don't offer, childbirthing classes,
Yeah.
or any classes to actually support the Black community. The only thing that they offer the Black community is abortion.
Yeah. Yeah. So sad. It's so sad. Uh, yeah, it's just grievous, and it's heinous what Planned Parenthood does and how they target the Black community. It needs to end. It needs to end. And so, shifting gears, because I know your time was limited here, Abby, and I mean you're on fire. I just wish we could listen to you for 2 hours here. But from the little the statistics that I've looked at, approximately 25%, roughly, according to sort of statistics, of American women may get an abortion in their lifetime. And, I've heard that maybe even around 2/3 of women, 67% of women who get an abortion feel coerced in some way by the male involved, or family or friends, or whatnot. And I have I even have a counselor therapist friend, and this person mentioned to me one time, a number of years ago, that all the time he will have women in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, middle ages, come to him because they had an abortion in the past, decades earlier, and all of a sudden it hits them, and they realize they need healing. They need to work through that. And so I have a thought, but we need to listen to you, Abby. And so I'm gonna hold my thought right now. But for those women who've had an abortion, and even for those men whose part, who had a woman that had an abortion, because it affects the man too.
Yeah.
For those men and women, how do they get the healing that they need to move on?
Yeah. So first of all, you've got to speak it out loud. You've got to talk to somebody about it.
Yeah.
Satan controls what you keep hidden.
Wow, that's good.
Satan controls what you keep in the dark.
Yeah.
What you keep in secret. And once you break that out of the darkness, once you bring that to the light, he no longer has control over it. And so the most powerful thing you can do with your abortion story, with your abortion regret, with your sin, any sin, this isn't just abortion, any sin, is to put it in the light.
Yeah.
So find someone who you trust, find someone who loves you, and tell them, open up about that. And it will, I mean, it's amazing, just the burden that you will feel lifted from you. Just saying it out loud. You don't have to step on a stage. You don't have to do what I do. That's not required for healing to take place. But just telling one person does so much for your healing. Then I would encourage you to connect to an abortion recovery healing program. There are many. There are some that you can do online. There are some that are done in groups. There are some that are done one-on-one. And there are men's programs as well. Surrendering the Secret actually just put out a brand new men's program that's very, very well done.
Yeah.
They also just put out a couples program. There are many couples that have gone through abortions together, whether they were married at the time or maybe they were dating and then they got married later. But this is still something that's in their relationship that they need to heal from. They just put out a couples abortion recovery workbook. So Surrendering the Secret also has just their standard abortion recovery program as well.
Yeah.
Support after abortion is a great resource. They can
Yeah.
connect you to online healing. Your local pregnancy center would have resources for you. You can
Yeah.
email me, Abby Johnson at abbyjohnson.org. You can email me, and I can help you find resources in your area. Um, so getting into an abortion recovery healing program is really powerful as well. And let me say, it takes time.
Hmm.
It takes time. It takes time to heal. It takes time to forgive yourself. It's easy knowing that God forgives you because he's God and that's what he does.
Yeah.
And we're all grown up knowing that if you confess your sin, God forgives you and it's done, right?
Yeah.
It's hard forgiving yourself. And people, that's a question I get from people all the time. Abby, how'd you forgive yourself? And the answer is that it took practice. And it took me waking up every day,
Hmm.
consciously making the decision uh,
Yeah.
whether I wanted to live in my past,
Yeah.
live in the place where Satan plays, right? Because I can't change my past.
Yeah.
And that's a playground for Satan. He wants to throw it in my face. He wants me to remember all the terrible things that I've done.
Yeah.
So, do I want to live there? Or do I want to live in the present? Do I want to live today? Do I want to live in this gift that God has given me? And
Yeah.
do I want to remember my sins in a way so that they glorify God
Hmm.
today?
Yeah.
And if I'm honest with you, some days I woke up and I chose to live in the past.
Hmm.
And I chose to throw myself a pity party and I wallowed around in my sin and I felt really sad all day. And I drank way too much wine and I vegged out on the couch and I didn't take care of my responsibilities and I had a bad day. And then I woke up the next day and maybe I chose differently or maybe I had another bad day. And eventually, though, after lots of practice, I woke up in the morning and I didn't even have to make the decision anymore. It just came naturally to me that I just wanted to live in God's grace
Hmm.
every single day. I
Yeah.
didn't want to go back to my past. I didn't want to ever go back there. I wanted to live in this gift that God had so graciously given me, but it took a lot of time. And so, if that's where you are,
Hmm.
give yourself some grace, give yourself some time. God's willing to wait and he's giving you that same grace. And so, don't be too hard on yourself if you have a bad day or if you just need a do over. It's okay. But it just takes time.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And I know we need to wrap up here soon, just uh, for you, Abby. But one quick thought. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this next thing I want to say. But as I've thought about abortion, and I alluded to this one time in a forum, but just like you, I really believe that for those women who've been through abortion, God can forgive you, and not only can He forgive you, but He wants to.
Yes.
And the woman or even the man who's involved just simply needs to ask. But I think another thing is, uh, I'm wondering if you know this, or if you feel this is true or not, but that if a woman and a man understand that they took a life through an abortion, I don't believe that's the end of the story. I actually believe that a child who's gone through an abortion is in heaven with God. And I believe in heaven, and I believe you can get to heaven through a relationship with Jesus. And I believe that man, that woman can see that child again someday with a relationship with Jesus Christ. And in heaven, there's no bitterness, there's no unforgiveness. And by definition, I believe that child is forgiven their parents. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. But I believe that parents can walk forward and say, you know what, they can see forgiveness from God, they can forgive themselves, but they can know that through a relationship with Jesus, they can be in heaven and they can see that child again once someday again. And they know that right now their child is forgiven them. What are your thoughts?
You know what? I have that same belief. And I think that's why it's important for women and men to take steps to um, memorialize that child in some
Yeah.
way here on earth.
Yeah.
Um, and abortion recovery programs take you through that process. I think that's why
Yeah.
it's an important process to go through, because I have great hope. I've had 2 abortions myself, personally, and have facilitated, of course, thousands. But I've had 2 abortions myself, and I have great hope
Yeah.
that when I get to heaven, that I will be reunited with those children, and that I will see them, and that I will get to look at their faces, and that I will get to see them live in heaven. And that is such a great hope that we can have as Christians.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thought for those of us who have gone through an abortion here on earth, that we can be reunited with
Yeah.
our children in perfect form in heaven.
Yeah, awesome. So one last quick thing before we go here, Abby, we are very close to an election. We are in an election year, and right now, for me personally, as a Christian, I personally am a strong supporter of the president. Uh,
Yep.
While I understand that every president in the history of humanity has their imperfections, I really am a strong supporter of the president. And I noticed on in some of your social media posting that you're a supporter of the president. And so for those who are, women who are pro-life, who are a woman of faith, Catholic or Christian, who follow Jesus or another faith, why would you say that you support the president, or why would you encourage them to also vote likewise in the way that you are?
I honestly don't understand how anyone who understands the barbarity of abortion, who even has an inkling about the horror that abortion causes. I don't understand how they could vote for anyone other than President Trump. I don't understand write-in candidates. I don't understand third-party candidates. I don't understand throwing away your vote. At the end of the day, we have 2 people to vote for. One of those 2 people will win. A third party candidate will not win. Your write in candidate, who nobody knows, will not win. It will be one of 2 people. And I guess for me, it's very clear. I am a proud single issue voter. Um, how can I not be? I um, I have seen abortion in a way that, thank God, uh, most people have not. I have, it's very real for me. It's very tangible for me. We think about abortion. Most people think about abortion and they think about it in a very abstract form, as something that's terrible, as something that happens to other people, or maybe you went through an abortion, but it happened, something that happened to you, right? But
Yeah.
abortion is something it hasn't just happened to me. It's something that I have experienced in a very real way. I know what it feels like to touch the body of a dismembered child. I know what it feels like to piece a baby back together after they have been torn apart in their mother's womb. I know what abortion sounds like as they suction a baby's head
Yeah.
through that suction cannula. I know what that's like. And most people don't know that abortion has a very distinct smell.
Hmm.
And I know what that smells like. I know abortion intimately. So for me, I don't care what Donald Trump writes on his Twitter. I don't care about his personality. I don't care about his kids. I don't care anything about that. I'm not voting for the next pastor of the United States. I am voting for a president, and I am voting for a person who will defend the unborn in the womb. And that is the primary concern that I have, because all of these other issues that people concern themselves with truly are secondary. Because without the fundamental right to live, without the right to sit here
Yeah.
on this earth, without the right to breathe the same air that we are all breathing, without the right to exist,
Yeah.
the economy, what's happening in Russia, war, the LGBT agenda, all of that is secondary compared to the right to live. So for me, uh, knowing what I know about abortion, that is what I vote for each and every time I go to the voting booth.
Yeah. 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 Awesome. So last 10-second question. The president has been very pro-life with his policy, but top three things the president has done for the pro-life movement from your perspective,
Mm.
for those who don't know.
Okay, so top three things. I would say first thing is that he defunded Planned Parenthood from the Title X program, which doesn't seem like that big of a deal, except it set a precedent so that we can defund Planned Parenthood from other title cash grant entitlement programs,
Yeah.
which is actually a really big deal.
Yeah.
Um, the second thing that he did, which may not seem like a real pro-life thing, but it is to me, is that he allowed religious organizations, religious nonprofits, to uh, basically set up their own policies on adoption.
Yeah.
So he allowed organizations like Catholic Charities to discriminate against homosexual couples from adopting children because it violated uh, their religious beliefs, which is a huge uh, victory for religious liberty, religious freedom, and to me is a huge victory for children because I don't believe that children should be adopted into homosexual families. So to me, that is a pro-life issue. Anything that when we're talking about adoption. And the third thing he did, which actually isn't, he's done many policy issues, which are important. But the third thing that he did that I thought was really important because it was really setting an example was that he showed up and spoke at the
Yeah.
March for Life.
Yeah.
which was a huge thing. He's the first sitting president to ever show up at a March for Life, and he didn't have to do it. He had actually wanted to do it several years before, but they had said, no, it's not a good year. But he came that year and this past year, and it set such an example
Yeah.
for the pro-life movement, and that he's willing to risk his safety,
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
be in a crowd that large.
Yeah.
And his speech was so powerful. It was so moving, and it came from his heart. And that he's willing to say, I'm willing to stand up here and I'm willing to defend life. And that he's the first president to ever do it says so much about who he is, and that he really means what he says when he says that he is pro-life.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, Abby, thanks so much for taking time to talk with me and talk with all of us who are listening. It's been phenomenal. I mean, literally, you're just preaching fire as we're talking, and I wish we could talk much more, but I know you have an amazing family that you need to spend time with. And so thanks so much for joining us. And then for those people who want to find you or follow you or find your ministry, how can they find you?
Yeah. They can go to Abby Johnson, abbyjohnson.org.
Okay, gotcha. And then obviously I think you're on Twitter and
yeah, I'm all over Twitter, Instagram, book, everywhere. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Hey, Abby, God bless you. Thank you so much for taking time to talk, and have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.